Resident Evil 7 is a survival horror game set around the Baker estate, a decaying house full of secrets, danger, and of course the Bakers themselves, a monstrous and cannibalistic family. But as the story unfolds, we learn they weren't always these monsters we know. Released by Capcom in 2017, it was considered a return to the series' survival horror roots. Earlier games like Resident Evil 6 had leaned more into action, but Resident Evil 7 dials it back. Though there's still plenty of combat, you never feel overpowered. Even with a strong weapon, something always goes wrong. Many believe this game saved the Resident Evil franchise, and after playing it, I agree. This review covers the full game along with its DLC. The DLC is discussed in a later section. Now, while I won't spoil the identity of the main antagonist, I will talk about other major story points when necessary. If you notice infinite ammo or health cheats in some clips, it's because I had to replay the game after losing most of my original recordings, and I didn't want to go through it all again the hard way. Now I will summarize the story up to the point where we meet the Bakers. Let's start with the opening cutscene.
Hey, baby! I just wanted to send a quick hello and I love you. Oh, good news! I'm gonna be coming home soon. Yay! I cannot wait to be done with this babysitting job and come home to my loving husband. I miss you. Oh, I gotta get back to work. I love you, Ethan. I miss you so much. I'm sending tons of kisses. Bye, baby.
Ethan. You were right. I did lie to you. I shouldn't have. All I can say is that if you get this, stay away.
This was Mia, who went missing 3 years ago, recording a warning for her husband Ethan, the protagonist of the story. But of course he never receives it. What he does get is an email, which you can see in your inventory, asking him to come find her. That message leads him to the Baker estate in Dulvey, Louisiana.
She's back.
They found her? How? What happened?
I don't know. Look, I don't know how, but she's back. She's back somehow. Maybe it's a prank, but she wants me to come and get her.
Where is she?
Dulvey, Louisiana.
Dude, it's been 3 years.
I know, but what if it is her? I have to find out what happened.
We arrive in front of the Baker estate, but the gate is locked, so we look for another way in. Along the way, Ethan comes across an abandoned van. Inside, there's a poster that says, Sewer Gators, Episode 17, Sneak into a Louisiana Ghost House. If that alone doesn't make the place feel suspicious. There's also a creepy sign next to the van that reads, Accept your gift. We continue forward and spot an old man walking through the woods. Ethan quietly follows him, passing by crows feasting on rotting meat, and then comes across a horrifying construct made of animal body parts and circular saw blades. He crouches under it to move forward and eventually finds a purse containing Mia's ID, confirming that she's somewhere in this messed up place. Once we're inside, the door we came through is closed from the outside. As we move deeper in, it feels like someone abandoned the place in a hurry a long time ago. It's filled with spider webs and a few items are left behind, like a food container, now rotted and crawling with cockroaches, and a newspaper that reads, Over 20 missing in 2 years, hinting at something sinister. There's also a dead crow in the microwave and a fridge filled with some kind of disgusting sludge. Upstairs, we find a button that seems to control the attic stairs, but it doesn't work yet. In the same room, there's a VHS tape that will come in handy soon, and a tape recorder where we can manually save our progress. Back downstairs, we check another door, but it's locked as well. The only room we can enter now has some photos, possibly of Mia and the owners of the house, along with a fuse box that's missing a fuse needed to activate the stairs. There's also a VHS player here, which is where the tape becomes useful, and the game introduces its analog horror element. When the tape plays, we take control of Clancy, the cameraman for Sewer Gators, an American documentary series that investigates strange sightings across the United States. The same group whose van we saw outside. This time, they're covering the disappearance of the Baker family. As they explore the house, one of the crew members, Andre, goes missing. We follow the other into this room where we discover a hidden chain mechanism that opens a secret doorway.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Alright, new deal. We find Andre and we go. I mean, fuck this show.
Clancy climbs down and finds Andre dead, standing eerily still with his face impaled on a pipe. The tape ends as someone enters the room and screams fill the air. Now I will summarize the rest real fast without much details to save time. We go down the same stairs, the steps are broken, we fall, we keep going, we find dead Andre. Then we find a sort of prison area with Mia in a cell, we help her escape out of it and she guides us. Eventually we reach a place where there should be a door according to her, but there isn't.
Mia,
We gotta get out of here.
just stay here, alright? I'm gonna have a look around.
We look around. Something kidnaps her. We follow after her and find nobody there. We then come back down and are greeted by a possessed-looking Mia. We fight her with an axe and seemingly kill her.
You really shouldn't have come here.
Who's this? And what the fuck is going on?
My name's Zoe. There should be a way out through the attic.
Attic.
Go there. Now.
Once we take a call from Zoe, one of the bakers. Mia is gone. After putting the fuse in, we are ambushed by her. We lose our hand to a chainsaw, we go up the stairs, find a gun, and we fight Mia once again.
Welcome to the family, son.
And just when we think it's over, we are sucker punched by Jack Baker. He drags us, Zoe staples our hand back on. And we are greeted by the Bakers.
Where am I? What the hell?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's time for supper.
Who are all you people? Where's Mia?
Eat it. It's good.
This is where the game actually starts. Everything till now is basically a prologue. I won't spoil any further than that. Most of the game takes place in the interconnected areas of the Baker estate. Sometimes you may feel lost, unsure of what to do next. But that confusion adds to the tension. Enemies are often just out of sight, and I found myself crouch walking everywhere to avoid being noticed, which is usually a viable and sometimes a necessary strategy. Going guns blazing can and will get you killed at times. New tools like keys or puzzle items open up areas you couldn't access before. You might need a guide sometimes to find specific items needed to move forward, but the puzzles themselves are mostly easy and nothing to write home about. Overall, though, the backtracking feels great because even feeling lost and not knowing where to go next adds to the horror experience. The inventory system adds to the tension because you will need to decide what to carry and store the rest in the item boxes that are located in fixed areas. You can also construct healing items and more if you have the ingredients to combine. You can get stronger by unlocking upgrades by collecting these antique coins. For example, this permanent health upgrade needs 3 ancient coins. Once you've put 3 in it, you'll unlock a steroid syringe and have to inject it in yourself. There are also a variety of weapons, from the M19 handgun you get early on in the guest house to the flamethrower you need to construct yourself. The first-person perspective is a first for mainline Resident Evil games. It makes the jump scares feel more personal and terrifying.
Stay the fuck out!
It also hides Ethan's face entirely to encourage self-insertion. Some players liked this approach, but others felt disconnected from him, partly because of that and partly because we barely know anything about him beyond his search for his missing wife. Combat feels clunky on purpose, which makes sense since you're just a regular guy and not some experienced soldier. Ammo also always feels limited, and I would often get through boss fights with almost nothing left. I'm still not sure if it's just a coincidence or some game mechanic making sure I survive before all my resources run out. If, of course, I stay alive that long. And melee with weapons like knives is dangerous and has little use outside of breaking crates. There are also no punching or kicking unlike earlier games. The biggest gameplay flaw is the molded enemies. They're creepy at first, but they quickly overstay their welcome. By the late game, they stop being scary and turn into ammo sponges that you can't even run past in some cases. They do have variations like blade molded, quick molded, and fat molded. But because they are the only enemy in the later part, these few variations don't really help much. If they mixed in some unique enemies once in a while, it wouldn't be such an issue. Overall, the whole late game feels rushed, and the molded seem like they were put there to just occupy space. One more annoyance is the fact that you can't skip cutscenes. It's not a huge issue for a first playthrough, but it's frustrating if you want to replay sections, or if you keep dying and have to bear through them before you can try again. The game has 3 difficulty modes: Easy, Normal, and Madhouse difficulty. Madhouse only unlocks after you have completed the game once in Easy or Normal mode. This is the main difference. Like most games, the harder the difficulty, the weaker you are and the stronger the enemies. But also, the harder the difficulty, the fewer autosaves you get, the less you can regenerate on your own without items, and that regeneration is slower too. Enemies will spot you more easily, and on Madhouse difficulty the AI is smarter, more aggressive, follows you for much longer, and some enemies like Jack are much faster than before. Not only that, but unlike Easy and Normal difficulty, where you can manually save any time with a tape recorder in different fixed locations, in Madhouse you will need cassette tapes to save in these tape recorders. They take up 1 inventory slot and are one-use items. You must locate them to save. To balance things a bit, Madhouse difficulty has 33 antique coins instead of the usual 18, along with extra bird cages for more upgrades. There's no NG Plus where your items and upgrades carry over, but there are unlockables you can use in any new playthroughs. For example, finishing the game in under 4 hours gets you both the X-ray glasses and the circular saw, which is the best melee weapon in the game. Enemy placement and tape recorder locations also change, so if you plan to replay the game, I recommend giving Madhouse a shot. Most of the story isn't handed to you. You piece it together by exploring and reading old documents. As shown in the Sewer Gators tapes, there are VHS recordings that put you in the shoes of someone else, letting you experience firsthand what happened and giving you clues for problems you'll face later. These tapes are a great way to tell a story while building tension, since you definitely don't want to share the same fate as the people in them. In contrast, the late game leans heavily into lore dumps. I actually think it's a good change of pace and, for me, the only real highlight of that part of the game. The cast in RE7 is small, but almost everyone has a clear and interesting personality that leaves an impression. As mentioned earlier, he's meant to be a self-insert character. He doesn't have much dialogue, but when he does speak, it's usually what someone in his situation might realistically say. All we really know about him is that he really loves Mia. She's more complex. Ignoring the times when she's not herself, she's a loving wife but a flawed person. After the game begins, we mostly see her when she's either scared and wants to escape with Ethan, or when she's violently attacking him. In the game, Jack is like a slasher villain who actively hunts you. He enjoys seeing you struggle, but he's not so sadistic that he drags things out for fun. If he catches you, he'll try to end it. His threats range from playful to genuinely menacing.
I'm gonna squash you like a bug. Hope Margarita.
She can be oddly motherly, insisting you eat her disgusting food. But once you refuse, she flips into violent rage. Unlike Jack, she isn't playful at all. She's openly hostile most of the time, using insects like wasps and spiders as weapons. If you have trypophobia, her boss fight might trigger it due to a disturbing insect hive on her body. He is like a Saw-style villain, forcing you through deadly puzzles and traps. He is the most sadistic of the family and enjoys prolonging his victims' suffering and torturing them, as shown in the 21 DLC. Zoe Baker, a smart, tough woman who watched her family turn into monsters overnight. She never gave up hope, surviving for 3 years until Ethan's arrival. Whenever someone was captured, she tried to help them escape, and she does the same for us, mostly by guiding us through phone calls. Lighting and shadows do a lot to set the mood, and the horror in RE7 comes more from atmosphere and anticipation than constant action. It's often not what's happening, but what might happen, that creates the most dread. You never feel safe. The game plays with your expectations, and just when you let your guard down, it throws something unexpected at you. That constant tension is a big part of why this is one of the best modern horror games. That said, the graphics at the very start aren't as strong as what you see inside the Baker estate. The sound design is top tier. Ambient noises made me paranoid. Footsteps that weren't there, creaking floors, sudden silence. Music is minimal and only appears when you're near danger.
What are you hiding? What?
The voice acting is excellent. Jack's menace,
It won't be long before I find you and kill you.
Marguerite's fury,
All right, you piece of shit! I've had about enough of you!
and Lucas's unhinged energy come through clearly. Ethan barely speaks, which was a deliberate choice that had mixed results. Personally, I get it. If I were in that situation, I wouldn't be chatty either. The intro song is also fantastic. I'll link both the short and full version in the description, which you only get in the game with the original soundtrack DLC. But even the short version sets the tone perfectly. On the topic of DLCs, here's the other ones. Banned Footage Volume 2. The highlight here is the Daughters mode, which I think anyone who liked RE7 should play. You play as Zoe on the night the Bakers turned from a normal family into monsters. It's shorter than the main game and has 2 endings, one of which is canon. I would say it's as scary if not more than the base game. This DLC also includes 21 mode where you play as Clancy, the Sewer Gators cameraman. This is basically a twisted card game where you lose fingers and more at the hands of Lucas every time you lose. If you can stomach the visuals, it's actually fun. Lastly, there's Jack's 55th birthday, a non-canon and silly timed mode where you feed Jack and shoot hat-wearing Molded. Some people love it, but I found it pointless. Banned Footage Volume 1. You get 2 Clancy scenarios here, Nightmare and Bedroom. Nightmare is a wave defense mode where you build traps and weapons from scraps to survive molded attacks until sunrise. A lot of people enjoy it, but by this point I was too tired of the molded, so it didn't appeal to me. Bedroom is more of an escape puzzle, where Marguerite locks you in a room. You have to solve puzzles without leaving evidence you move things or she'll catch you. If she does, you either get beaten or killed depending on how many times you're caught. It's tense and fun, but too short. This DLC also has Ethan Must Die mode, a brutally hard bonus mode where enemies can kill you in one hit unless you block. There are no checkpoints, items are random, and the final boss is Marguerite. This is frustrating for many, but some might enjoy it. Not a hero. You play as Chris Redfield, one of the original RE protagonists who has appeared in more games than anyone else. This DLC is more action-heavy, with lots of gunplay, grenades, and high-tech gadgets. Chris looks different and feels weaker compared to past games, but still strong. The story focuses on catching Lucas Baker, who survived the main game and is hiding in the Abercrombie salt mine. There are tough fights, new molded types, and toxic air areas. Definitely worth playing, especially since you finally face Lucas head-on. End of Zoe. In this DLC you play as Joe Baker, Jack's older brother, who hasn't been in contact with the family for a long time. After the main game's events, Joe sets out to save Zoe. Story-wise, I have some problems with it, especially since some plot points never are explained in the game and all you can do is theorize. Gameplay-wise, it might be the most fun DLC. Punching Molded is incredibly satisfying, and Joe feels way stronger than Chris in Not a Hero. It's mostly melee focused, but you also get throwable spears later. Set in the swamps near the Baker estate, it's not horror heavy, but still worth playing. Coin DLCs. These unlock Madhouse mode without having to beat the game first and give you coins that boost whatever they're named after as long as they're in your inventory. For example, the attack coin boosts attack power. I wouldn't bother with these since the boosts aren't worth using up an inventory slot, unless you just want early access to Madhouse mode. Season Pass. Unlocks everything above except Not a Hero, original soundtrack, and the coins and Madhouse unlock DLC. Resident Evil 7 nails almost everything it aims for. It is scary, immersive, and packed with smart design choices. It's not perfect as it has a couple issues like repetitive enemies, unskippable cutscenes, and more, but it is still an unforgettable survival horror experience. If you enjoy games that make you feel unsafe, powerless, and always one step away from death, this is your kind of horror. If you cannot handle gore, disturbing imagery, or have arachnophobia or trypophobia, you might want to skip it. Overall, I had a lot of fun with it and I personally consider it a 9 out of 10.